Throughout history, humanity has advanced under the tension between two fundamental forces: order and chaos, logic and emotion, masculine and feminine. In every era, these forces have danced with each other, shaping civilizations, ideologies, and the rise and fall of empires. Among these contrasts lies a persistent myth that women by nature are gentle, nurturing, empathetic creatures. This image has been romanticized, immortalized, and instilled into the collective psyche of societies across time. But as we peer deeper into the fabric of psychology, of history, and of human interaction, we must ask, is this portrayal complete, or has it been manipulated? The truth, though uncomfortable, is necessary, not to incite division, but to illuminate reality. The idea that women are inherently more empathetic, more caring, and more emotionally intelligent has been accepted almost dogmatically. But in truth, empathy does not always translate to accountability, and often, when emotion rules unchecked, it becomes a tool not of healing, but of distortion. We rarely question why, in moments of conflict, the woman is more readily believed, her story more immediately accepted, her emotions validated before any logical scrutiny. Society has conditioned us to trust tears over reason, to comfort the one who cries rather than examine the one who causes chaos. And in doing so, we've empowered an unbalanced system where accountability is optional and blame becomes a weapon. Women are human, capable of both love and destruction, but where men are told to take ownership, to toughen up, to be responsible regardless of pain or failure, women are often sheltered from that same expectation. Their mistakes are excused through trauma. Their betrayals are softened by the language of emotion. Their lies, if told through tears, are perceived as truths. The truth is this: emotion is not superior to logic. And yet, we live in a world where emotional reactions often override logical reasoning, where the way someone feels becomes more important than what is actually true. And because women are often more fluent in emotion, they've learned to wield it not only as expression, but as influence, as control. When emotion becomes the judge, logic becomes the casualty, and many men have found themselves destroyed not by brute force, but by manipulation, false accusation, and emotional warfare. This is not an abstract idea. We have seen empires crumble not just by sword or fire, but by betrayal seeded in seduction. From Helen of Troy to Cleopatra to more modern figures whose charm outweighed truth, history is a graveyard of men who overestimated love and underestimated consequence. Power does not always come in the form of armies. Sometimes it wears perfume. Sometimes it whispers promises. Sometimes it cries to a crowd and lets the mob do the rest. Attractiveness in the hands of a woman is not just a biological gift. It is a social weapon. In every culture, beauty buys favor. It bypasses merit. It excuses behavior. It wins influence. And when unchecked, it manipulates reality itself. A beautiful woman can lie and still be believed. She can destroy and still be defended. In a world that values validation more than truth, beauty often becomes a shield from accountability. But what is more dangerous than someone who can cause harm and never be questioned? This is not to say all women are guilty of this, but to pretend this dynamic does not exist is to walk blindly through a battlefield. Too many men fall into traps woven with compliments and attention. They surrender their purpose for pleasure. They trade their discipline for validation. They mistake desire for love and lose everything in return. There's a reason lust is one of the oldest warnings in every spiritual tradition. Not because desire is evil, but because it is blinding. Lust makes men forget who they are. It makes them chase shadows and surrender empires for fleeting comfort. And in the hands of a woman who understands her power, it becomes a leash around a man's neck. To overpower lust is not to reject love. It is to elevate it, It is to see clearly. A man must understand that not every smile is sincere, not every compliment is true, and not every tear is innocent. Men must reclaim their discipline, not to suppress their nature, but to master it, to see the game being played before stepping into it, to recognize manipulation before it becomes destruction. The modern man is being taught to submit, to be emotionally available, to listen and yield, to apologize before he's even spoken. But this unbalanced submission is not strength, it is surrender. And it leaves men vulnerable to those who use emotion as a blade and attraction as bait. The true path to strength lies in awareness, in seeing clearly, in understanding that while women possess beauty, emotion, and influence, these traits are not inherently virtuous. They are tools, just as logic, strength, and reason are tools for men. A wise man does not hate the lioness for her claws. He respects them, he studies them, he prepares for them, and in doing so he survives. It is not enough to love a woman, you must understand her. Not through the lens of fantasy or ideology, but through truth, through patterns, through history. We must look at the stories we've been told, the movies where the woman is always the victim, the songs that elevate heartbreak over responsibility, the media that praises vulnerability while punishing masculinity. And we must ask, why? Who benefits from a world where men no longer lead, no longer question, no longer trust themselves? Who gains from men being confused, emotional, weak, and dependent? A man who is led by lust is easily led by lies. A man who believes in the myth of the always virtuous woman is unprepared for the moment that a virtue becomes violence. The strongest men in history did not fall to armies. They fell to seduction, to betrayal. To women they trusted more than their mission. Samson was not slain by soldiers, but by Delilah. Mark Antony did not lose to Caesar, but to Cleopatra. And countless men today lose their legacy not in battle, but in courtrooms, custody battles, and emotionally engineered traps. To acknowledge this is not hatred, it is awareness, it is maturity, it is preparation. We must teach men that the greatest enemy is not always the one who raises a sword, but the one who lowers your guard. And to conquer that, a man must conquer himself. To conquer himself, a man must master the forces within him. Lust, ego, need for validation. These are not weaknesses by default, but when they govern action without clarity, they become chains. A man who lives by discipline sees through illusion. He can look at beauty and not be possessed by it. He can hear praise and not be controlled by it. He can experience love without surrendering his mission to it. This is the foundation of masculine sovereignty. Not coldness, not cruelty, but clarity. In today's world, where victimhood is currency and accountability is scarce, men must hold the line, not out of bitterness, but out of balance. Because without that balance, society tips into chaos. Women who are not held accountable will continue to believe that they are always right, that their emotions define reality, that their intentions excuse their impact, and that belief unchecked will continue to destroy relationships, families, and futures. This is not an attack on women. It is a call to men to understand the dual nature of the feminine. Women are capable of profound compassion and also profound manipulation. The same sensitivity that can nurture a child can also be weaponized to destroy a man. The same passion that can fuel love can also spark vengeance. The same charm that can inspire greatness can also seduce greatness into ruin. Men must stop idealizing women and start understanding them. And understanding begins with removing the blindfold of lust, of fantasy, of ideology. seeing women not as goddesses or devils, but as people with strengths, flaws, motives, and instincts, some noble, some dangerous. Once you see this, you begin to act differently. You begin to lead with awareness, not impulse. You begin to set boundaries. You begin to choose women based on character, not curves. You begin to ask deeper questions, not, is she hot? But is she honest? Is she loyal? Is she grounded? Most importantly, you stop being afraid to walk away, because the most dangerous place for a man to be is where he knows the truth, but is too addicted to beauty to act on it. Society trains men to chase women, to prove themselves to women, to seek approval from women. But true masculinity doesn't beg for attention. It commands respect. It doesn't follow. It leads. It doesn't submit to the feminine. It integrates with it on his own terms. This is not about dominating women. It is about no longer being dominated by your own blindness. Because when men are ruled by unchecked desire, women are tempted to rule by unchecked emotion. And from that unholy balance, destruction is born. Empires fall not just by invasion, but by internal rot, by corrupted values, by leaders who lose themselves to pleasure, by kings who forget their crown to chase their queen. The same pattern repeats itself today. In homes, in courtrooms, in culture, men abandoning purpose for pleasure, walking into emotional traps, believing lies because they're told with tears, apologizing for things they didn't do, and paying the price for love that was never real. To reverse this, men must return to themselves, to discipline, to logic, to brotherhood, to purpose, to something bigger than the next pair of lips that says, I love you. Because love without truth is manipulation. Sex without clarity is self-destruction. Partnership without accountability is a prison. Masculinity is not the problem. Unawareness is. Lust is not the problem. Submission to it is. Women are not the enemy. Illusion is. The man who knows the game cannot be played by it. The man who knows the patterns does not fall for them. The man who knows the power of the feminine does not fear it, but respects it and rises above it. This is the higher path, the warrior's path, the path of the king. It does not hate women. It honors them by seeing them clearly, not as angels, not as demons, but as powerful beings whose power must be understood, not blindly trusted. The king builds empires not for pleasure, but for legacy. He loves not out of need, but out of strength. He chooses a queen who sharpens him, not one who softens him into weakness. And if no queen is worthy, he waits, he builds, he leads, he becomes. To the men listening, this is your time to wake up, to stop being the victim of beauty, to stop being the casualty of emotion, to stop handing your destiny to someone who has not earned your trust. Understand female psychology, not to dominate, but to defend. Not to control, but to stay in control. Not to hate, but to protect your purpose from being swallowed by illusion. Be the man who sees clearly. Be the man who thinks before he feels. Be the man who leads himself before he follows another. Because if you do not lead yourself, you will be led by someone else. And too often, that someone does not want what's best for you. They want what serves them. Be wise, be aware, be disciplined, and no woman, no lie, no emotion will ever destroy you.